Jumping right back into the action on today's show, talking some more on the contract negotiations with the Dolphins, but not so much Tua Tagovailoa. This time around, Tyreek Hill, because this year is the last year Tyreek Hill will get guaranteed money in his contract, but the base salary this year is going to be around 19.6, and then after that, the base salaries, while it's not guaranteed money technically up front, the base salaries in 2025 are set to be 21.8, and then in 2026 it's going to jump up tremendously to 43.9. That's where, even though he is technically getting paid around $30 million per year, because it is so heavily stocked towards the last year of that deal, that's where it sort of averages out to $30 million. He's just not getting that really every year because it was so, pushed far back on this contract. That's where you get that $30 million per year average. And because the salary is that high, the cap hits in 2025 are going to be 34.2. And then in 2026, when his base salary is nearly $45 million, his cap hit is set to be at about $56 million against the cap for the Miami Dolphins. So with that being, the facts of it, the matter of fact of the situation with Tyreek, a lot of people are expecting, that rework deal to come at some point soon for the Miami Dolphins and for Tyreek Hill, because he reset the wide receiver market only 2 years ago, and now he's trying to see where he fits in this new market where Justin Jefferson reset it just this offseason, now getting paid $35 million per year. People are expecting Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins to rework this deal just because the Dolphins can't take that big of a cap hit. That's ridiculous to take in a deal. So it should shed some cap space for Miami once they rework it. But when that does happen, the timing of that with Tua's deal is something that I wanted to get to and discuss on today's show. But before I do that, I wanted to mention what Tyreek Hill said on the new wide receiver market, which was, so very proud of these guys. Happy for, obviously, my teammate Waddle getting his new deal. For guys like me, that's great. I'm 30 years old, also looking for a new deal. So very, very excited to see where I fit in to this category. And he also most recently spoke with ESPN to say that he knows that the Miami Dolphins will end up doing what's right when it comes time for him to get his deal done. But with that, I think there's a lot to unpack with just that statement. He mentioned that the main focus for him is just helping this team, this organization, bringing a championship to the community here in Miami. But back to that comment I mentioned, paraphrasing it, when he spoke to ESPN, he said that he knows that Miami will do what's right when it comes time for him to get his deal done. And it's pretty interesting when you say something like that, just because it's all business, right? You always want to try and get the other side to make a move, applying that bit of pressure, saying some underlying comment to, get the point across. And obviously Tyreek wants to get paid. Tyreek deserves to get paid just off of last year. He probably has earned himself more than $30 million per year on a rework deal. But the timing of it is the most crucial thing. For him to say this now, in a time where we really haven't heard anything close to being done or something like that with Tua and his contract negotiations, for him to say that when it comes time for the Dolphins to, rework his deal, he knows that they're going to do the right thing, obviously alluding to the fact that paying him is the right thing to do. And will the Dolphins, as you guys see on your screen, resolve Tua or Tyreek's contract first after hearing some more of these comments from Tyreek, applying more pressure to the Dolphins? Almost to me, how I, evaluate it is who's going to get done first. Tyreek wanting, obviously, to get this deal done sooner rather than later, just because of how everything is working out in the wide receiver market. But with these comments now, I think the Dolphins are put in a very weird situation where Tyreek's almost putting his trust and saying, I have so much trust in the Dolphins that I know they're going to do right by me. I know they're going to pay me accordingly for all that I've done for them on the football field. I know when it comes time to pay up, to pay me accordingly, they're going to do it because we have that level of trust. We have that level of understanding, without really saying that he's expecting a new contract eventually from the Miami Dolphins. And the timing of it, like I said, is weird because Tua, obviously the quarterback of this team, coming off one of his best years, if not his best year, is also looking for a lot of money, arguably, because of who's getting paid, the market price. Tua has made a good case for himself to be paid that amount of money, just based on what he did last year. Who's getting paid $50 to $55 million? You put the numbers up close to one another, the accolades and all that sort of thing, the success in the NFL, he lines up right where some of these new guys are getting some of these new contract deals done. And the Dolphins, quite frankly, can, again, similarly to the 49ers, can't afford to have too many of these guys paying market price for a lot of them. You already paid Jalen Waddle about $27, $28 million per year. Tyreek is already at $30 million per year, technically. So if he wants more, it's going to be worse for the Dolphins. They already used a lot of their cap space to make the rest of their team better, which I fully support because I think defensively they could have used some help. They got it this offseason, so there's no problem with that. But when you have great players like this, these are the sort of problems that you have to balance out and almost have to make a decision now because Tua, like I mentioned, has been going on for a while. His negotiations have been going on all offseason, and Tyreek, it almost seems like just now, is bringing up the idea of fitting into this new reset wide receiver market where he's already getting paid, I think, as a top 5 wide receiver, but now he's putting some more pressure on the Dolphins to pay him a little bit more. And again, it's hard to argue with him because of the season that he just put up being so crucial to the Dolphins. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place because he's making a good point, but also your quarterback is obviously the quarterback, and how people view the quarterback in a decision where you have to choose who you get done first. Most people would choose the quarterback, but it is all, circumstantial because I think a lot of people aren't too convinced about Tua. So in this situation, whose contract situation would get resolved first? In my opinion, this is tough. In my opinion, between Tua or Tyreek, who gets done first? I would probably say Tyreek. Because, again, it goes back to what I said already with Brandon Ayuk's deal. If you really want to get it done, you get it done already. That's my biggest thing. I don't like to hang around too much with teams saying that they want to get it done. We want to pay him. He's a crucial part to this team. If you really believe it, you got to do it. I know the financials take a long time, but this has been going on all off season. You're talking about the quarterback too. It's not like we're talking about a linebacker or a running back or a wide receiver. The quarterback, on how it's valued in today's game, this should have been done it should have already been done. And for them to continue to dance around it, and Tyreek Hill now considered one of the best wide receivers and applying a little bit more pressure with his last statement, I think the Dolphins would probably get a new reworked deal done with Tyreek before they even get to Tua. And then what sort of message does that send to Tua? You get Tyreek Hill a new deal while he's been working on this all summer. How does he feel about that? What message does that send to Tua on this kind of season that he provided for this team, for them to still not value him that high and continue to push this off is a very tricky situation to be right now for the Miami Dolphins. The cap is limited, again, obviously, because they addressed other parts of their team. And right now, who is making the most impact on that team? I think you can make a good case for either of them, but to me, I think Tyreek, what you're going to get 100%. Unless he's, injured or something like that, that you're going to get top 5, top 3 level numbers from Tyreek. And you could even say that you can put almost any quarterback in there and he's going to get his numbers. That's the level that you're going to get with Tyreek. Whereas with Tua, I've been on the show saying that I want them to pay Tua. I think based on what everybody else is getting, he should get paid. But the biggest question with that is I don't think the Dolphins view him in a spot right now where they think that he could produce this year in and year out. I would give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think the Dolphins are there right now. I think they're more convinced with what Tyreek has shown them already with what his reputation is in the NFL, and that's why I believe they're actually going to pay Tyreek quicker and resolve his situation quicker before they get to Tua. And then at that point, how much cap space do you have to dance around with where you could still offer Tua what he's looking for and resolve the situation and move on going forward? Because I think Dolphins players want Tua to stay, but again, it's a business at the end of the day. I wouldn't be surprised if this carries on into a good chunk of training camp that is just set to start this week or next week for the Miami Dolphins. So it's an ongoing situation. It keeps getting dragged out like all of these contract negotiations for these big players do, but we'll definitely keep our tabs on it and talk about it, I'm sure, some more throughout the rest of the offseason. But we have one more segment to get to on Justin Simmons. Still remains a free agent, one of the better remaining free agents left on the market. He believes that he can contribute a lot to any team that signs him, but when will he get signed still remains the question. I'll try to answer that when we return after this break. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.